In today's video, I'm going to be explaining 10 of the best and most broken Fortnite peaks that you can do. I'm also going to be giving a full breakdown on exactly why you keep on dying in fights, because of something called desync. If you've ever been shot around a corner or shot through a build, it's probably because of desync, and I'm explaining how you can prevent that with these 10 best peaks. Now, before we jump in and take a look at some of those broken Fortnite peaks that you need to start learning, let's take a look at what actually makes a good Fortnite peak with this very bad drawing that I've done, which illustrates two very, very important things. The first is the Fortnite Hitbox, and the second is Peeker's Advantage, or desync, and this happens in every single online game, as well as very, very often happens in Fortnite. If you've ever died around a corner and been shot when you don't think you should be visible to your opponent, that is Peeker's Advantage, and that is desync. So let's explain how that works. So first off, we've got the Fortnite Hitbox outlined right here. As you can see, there's some key differences to the underlying skin. The first one is it's a little bit taller at the top. This actually makes it easier to headshot if you aim slightly above the head, just based on the hitbox. Then it's also much wider than your skin would actually show off. This is because even the largest Fortnite skins like the Peter Griffin or the chicken skin, all of those have the exact same hitbox underneath them as the smallest female superhero skin. That's why all of the top pros are really small skins, because it's a lot harder to get seen. However, it still has the exact same hitbox, which is why it's not an unfair competitive advantage. Here's a very good example of how this hitbox actually plays out, and this is in a creative zone wars on 0 ping. So as you can see right here, Veno is going to go ahead and pre-fire as the opponent opens an edit, and as you can see, the guy, by the time Veno actually shoots, is completely behind the wall, but because the hitbox for the head is a little bit larger, Veno hits 185 regardless. As you can see, at the exact moment Veno shoots, the opponent's head is only a sliver over the wall, but he still gets hit with a 185 because of how big the hitbox is on the head. All right, now the next part of the equation that makes a perfect peak is, of course, the desync between the server, and basically the lag that every action in Fortnite has. And as you can see, Fortnite actually shows this up in game when you turn on the ping bar. That equals 30 packets per second, which is basically the tick rate of the Fortnite server. So for every single match that you get into, whether it's a 1v1 creative or it's a FNCS Grand Finals, the tick rate of the server will always be 33 milliseconds. That's basically how much times per second is actually Fortnite sending you the information is always going to have a 33 millisecond delay on it from what other people are doing. But then also uploading and actually sending data to the server. What is your character doing? What are you shooting? What are you aiming at? Fortnite also needs to receive that information. And as you can see, even on the best possible situation where I'm on a creative server with 0 ping on my own, there's nobody else in here with me, I'm still receiving around 25 milliseconds of delay. And that is literally in the most perfect conditions. So in the absolute most optimal scenario, I am still receiving 55 milliseconds of desync. And that is why when you're creative free building, you might be noticing issues where your builds aren't registering or your things aren't placing. And that is in the best conditions possible. Let's just say, for example, that we go ahead and change this upload speed, and this is basically whatever happens on high ping. Let's say, for example, I'm playing an NA Central Cup and suddenly my upload speed is way reduced because I'm playing on higher ping. What you'll notice whenever this happens is it is way easier to beam people, because you can continue to shoot them and continue to get damage on them even after they've reacted, just because of the difference here, and that equals a total combined delay on the Fortnite side as well as your side over 133 milliseconds. That is why it's way easier to beam people on high ping, but it's also much harder to box fight, because of course you can't respond to your wall getting taken because of this massive delay between the server side and your own side. All right, so now you understand first of all how big the Fortnite hitbox is and how easy it is to get hit if you do a bad edit, as well as the natural inbuilt delay that you get even in the best possible conditions that makes it so important that you do good peaks to not get hit in return. So what do these good peaks actually look like? Well, very, very simply, a good peak is in the top right hand corner of your screen. So right here, as I'm holding this edit, there's a couple good peaks that I can do if my opponent was behind the wall. The first of which would be the classic top right hand edit like that, where I would jump into it. That would basically give me a swinging top right hand peek into it and allow me to get a very, very easy shot off. But I'm sure you guys already know that. The next would be a right hand window, which basically allows me to peek into that window and move to the right without getting hit in return, and your opponent won't even be able to see you. Another very strong type of peek we'll take a look at involving this rule of the top right is any type of peek where you're either uncrouching or you're jumping and you have some type of momentum where you're going to have Peeker's Advantage. You can see where your opponent is, so you can see your opponent off in the distance standing over here, and you are instead going to be actually jumping into them and getting a shot off before they can even see you, and it is so powerful. Now this first peek is so good that Peterbot literally pulled it off during the most intense clutch situation at the last global championship, and he did it to win the entire tournament. Very, very simply, all you do is stand in a single bit of a floor tile like this, and you have the easiest time of shooting your opponents as they run past or run from below. You can also do this if there's somebody on the stair itself that that you've got boxed, you can literally just stand here, jump, and you get that peeker's advantage from jumping, as well as the right-hand peek. And of course, because you've got the floor edited, you can instantly reset after you shoot. Another nice benefit of this really good peek is because you're already above your opponent, as soon as you get a shot, you can instantly pre-piece the side and catch them as they leave the box. It is by far the most underrated peek in Fortnite, and you guys need to start putting it into your arsenal. Now, the next peek of this video is one of the absolute favorites that I've been learning to master, and lots of top pros like Veno love to do this in all of the fights they get into. Basically, what you do is try to predict where your opponent is going to be going from above. So if they're wall replacing you, which a lot of players are starting to do, or they're trying to break your builds from above, all you do is pre-place a double edit where they're moving to and try to catch them and drop them down into a shot of yours. The massive benefit of this is it's completely unexpected for your opponent when it happens. They're not going to be pre-aiming where you are because they're moving around your box. They're going to be aiming where they're actually moving to, so they're not actually ready to hit you in return. As well as you can really easily do this if you're not able to quickly get up a layer or actually stop somebody from reboxing. You can just simply pre-place a floor and a cone where they're moving to and drop them straight down into a max damage shot. You can also do the slightly riskier variant of this. If there's someone directly on your head, you can drop them straight down to your piece. However, I would recommend just sticking to pre-placing it outside your box so you have that wall between you as a little bit of a safety block. Now, this next peek is the best peek in the game to do whenever there's somebody in your box. So many people, whenever they've got somebody underneath a stair, still rely on the classic sort of Mongol classic, which has been in the game for ages, and it's very, very bad. The issue is it looks good, but if we go to where the opponent would be and turn on our little handy overlay of what actually happens and where the crosshair is, as you can see, you are completely exposed in that sort of green circle, no matter where you are. Instead, what you should do is this exact peak right here. So imagine there's somebody below this stair. What you want to do is edit just like that, and this allows you a much easier time of hitting a shot, and from the opponent's POV, they are completely blocked off from hitting you. You can also do a variant of this peak where you stay above on the stair just like this, and then you jump into it if your opponent is standing over here towards the right, so you're not just 50-50ing and trading a shot. Instead, you be like this, jump, shoot, and then go ahead and go down, and that combines all of the important parts of having a good peak. Another good way of using this peak is by sitting way back in the box, not actually being on the stair with somebody below you. This basically allows you a perfect peek onto somebody, as well as you can combine this with another type of edit like a right hand window and basically have two really good peaks in a row that makes it impossible to get hit in return. Now, the next best peak in Fortnite is probably one that you do 1,000 times a day, which is the standard FourTile edit. However, pretty much the entire time people are doing these edits, they're doing them wrong and they're standing in the wrong position. Now, the big question is, should you do a right FourTile or should you do a left FourTile? I'm going to recommend that you pretty much entirely do right FourTile edits in this exact scenario when your opponent is in the box opposite you. The main reason for this is because if you're standing on a flat or you're standing on a cone like this, the opponent from their POV isn't able to get a shot on you because they're bumped up by this. You've got to be very, very careful about doing the edit when your opponent is close to the wall. Make sure they're bumped up like this. It's hard for them to get a shot because the natural arch of the FourTile is protecting you. So when would you actually do a left FourTile? Well, very, very simply, you would do it to stop your opponent's shotgun replacing the wall, and you would do it when you're out to the side. So as you can see right here, I've got my opponent in this box, for example, and what I want to go ahead and do is a FourTile edit just like that, and this allows me to easily do a right hand peek or the best type of peek mechanics behind it, and the opponent isn't able to just shotgun the wall as you do the edit. Really, really important. One of the best uses of a FourTile though is the fact that you can actually shoot through the gap on the stair. So whenever you're underneath a stair and you've got somebody above you, instead of editing on them, simply leave the box, exit, and then you can shoot straight through like that, and you're basically guaranteed 100+ tag. This is one of the best plays that you can do, and from the opponent's perspective, it's a very hard shot to hit through this gap, and they're normally going to be shooting their own stair or shooting the wall. Now, our fifth best type of peek in Fortnite is one that is any type of floor edit where you are jumping into your opponent. Now, the reason this is so strong is, as you can see from our hitbox diagram right here, is this is a type of peek where you are moving straight into your opponent. So let me draw how it looks. You're basically jumping into your opponent, and of course, because you're hugging close to the wall like this, you're basically invisible to your opponent until you peek out. You also want to try to combine it with a right hand peek as well, just like that. You can also do it open. Try to combine it with right hand peek. As your opponent is replacing your tops, you can see exactly where they are through the third person peek. Jump and then shoot as you get towards the top, and you can easily line up a max damage shot, and this is really, really good to do. Another variant of this as well. Imagine somebody is running forward and they're trying to chase you as you're boxed up. What you're going to do is go down your box, and then as they come forward and as they come towards you, just simply jump up, and this is the Martos classic that is really strong to do. Literally so good because you have that full peeker's advantage, as well as you can just pre-fire a shot towards them as they get on your wall.
Roll base boosting to you right now.
58. Pissed on.
Nice. Ooh, what a bang. No!
The same type of jumping mechanic also works on a sideways stair. So let's say somebody is above and they've got the double edits on you and they're trying to peek into you. Just hug close to this. This makes it really awkward for them to hit you. And then you can very simply jump and get a shot as they swing into you. Before we hop into the next 5 best peeks that you can do in Fortnite, I want to tell you guys about the Fighting Maskers 2.0 because we've got an update coming later on this season. A bunch of the peeks that I found and started practicing in this video were directly inspired by the videos that I created with the pros inside the Fighting Mask class. There's over 150 lessons from these pros directly, and you can learn exactly what peaks they do, what situations they do them in, as well as how to apply these new strats in game. Go check out the Fighting Masterclass 2.0 and leave a comment down below. I'll be choosing one person for a free Fighting Masterclass copy if you suggest a new pro that we should get on the Fighting Masterclass for the update this season. Again, just comment down below and go check out the Fighting Masterclass 2.0 if you want to improve. All right, now we've taken a look at the 5 best peaks. Let me run you through 5 more in a quick fire fashion that are very good to do, but they're a little bit more situational than the ones we've just talked about. Number 6 is of course the bottom 3 tile edit. This is one that is extremely good because from your opponent's perspective, they are completely unable to hit you and actually get a shot off in return. However, you can very easily shoot their legs. This is also a very, very good peek to do. If you're ever in super close quarters fighting like this, it's a person on the other side of the wall, you're not sure what type of edit to do, do a bottom 3 tile, sit back, and you can get a 300+ tag on their legs very, very easily. The next edit, and this is one that's very, very good if you're in a direct wall-to-wall situation, but you know your opponent is trying to replace the wall to get out safely. And all you do, very, very simply, is a full top row edit. This, of course, leaves you very, very exposed, but if your opponent's trying to replace the wall and get out, this makes it impossible for them to hit, and also it has a nice benefit where they sort of get stuck on the bottom of it, and you can line up a shot very easily. If you are going to do this, I would recommend combining it with a cone peek, like we talked about at the very start of the video, where you're sitting back like this, you open, and then you get a shot on your opponent, and they're not able to hit you in return. Number 8, this is an absolute classic. Whenever you're approaching a wall, instead of just hopping on it diagonally like this, where the opponent can do an open edit and hit you in return, instead sit on it above just like this. You can do the exact same wall replaces, breaks, edits. However, from the opponent's POV, they can only see the very, very top part of your character. And of course, you can reset and protect yourself if they open and edit very, very easily as well. Now, number 9 is a little bit different. Instead of just thinking in terms of a regular edit or a regular situation to do, instead think about how you can combine that regular edit with a jump into it. So let's just say, for example, I'm, down here and my opponent is behind this wall. I'm not just going to edit and stand and shoot and do a regular right and peek, which is a little bit easy to predict. Instead, I'm going to do the edit from a distance away and then jump into it, and it makes it very, very hard for my opponent to react. Same thing goes for any type of top row edits. Doing a top row edit, you can jump into it, and it's basically a default edit, but you jump into it. Makes it very hard to get hit in return because, of course, you have that really strong desync and peekers advantage going in your favor, not in your opponent's favor. And the final peek of this entire video is that absolute best peek in Fortnite. I think if there was one peek that you could literally just do and nothing else, you're not allowed to do any other type of edit, it would have to be the right hand window. This is such a strong window. As you can see, compared to a middle window, it is much thinner and much narrower, which basically makes it a lot harder to get hit in return. And also, of course, you have a natural right hand peek every single time you do it. One nice benefit of a right hand peek window is no matter when you do it or what situation you do it in, you're always going to be moving into it on the right. So even if you do the worst type of, peek selection, you'll still have a little bit of a right hand peek as you do it, which is really, really nice. There's a couple nice ways of actually using the right hand window. Let's say you've got somebody full boxed. Instead of doing any other typical edit that they're going to expect, instead what you can do is a right hand window. It leaves the wall a little bit healthier so they can't break it compared to a top row edit that leaves it at lower HP. And then you're able to do a very, very simple right hand peek, shoot, and get a shot in. And the exact same thing goes for so many people. They do this, they double edit, they stand right here, and they're completely exposed and they trade a shot with your opponent. Instead, do the exact same thing, place a wall and then right hand window after it. And then from the opponent's POV, look how hard it is to actually get a shot back on somebody versus this, versus a single little window peek. When they're way up there, it's much harder to get hit in return. The right hand window is the best peek in Fortnite and you need to start doing it more. All right, that is all for this video. Hopefully this was useful, explaining how hitboxes, desync, as well as all of these different peaks help you improve at Fortnite. So please leave a like if you enjoyed and let me know what type of fighting related videos you want to see in the future down below in the comments, and I will be doing some of them in the coming weeks.